To he who has, more will be given, and he will have in abundance. And the opposite is also true. From he who has not, even what little he has will be taken away. Consistency annihilates intensity every time. So we don't need a breakthrough. We need another bucket. We need another shovelful, another rep, another day showing up when you don't feel like it. If you start making moves, things get a lot better real fast. The work works on you more than you work on the work. Most overwhelm isn't even real, so it's imagined. It's our brain fast forwarding to the end.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Waste No Day podcast. Your host, Nate and Brian, hanging out with you again. Looking forward to, as you know it, another great episode. This time we're going to be focusing on obtaining or achieving big goals. And we're going to do it, as they say, the old proverb, by eating an elephant. How do you do it? One bite at a time, and you start with the trunk. I don't know. We're going to get weird. Eating elephants, eating frogs, eating tasty animals, whatever works. But we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a great show. Just the two of us hanging out with you again and looking forward to it. Before we get to the meat of the content, enjoy the pun, if you will. We're going to kick it off with a quote from Brian.
Jim Rohn said that success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day, while failure is nothing more than a few simple mistakes practiced every day.
All right. Let me digest that for a little. Oh boy, we're just going to keep going with this. Let me digest that for a little bit.
Just start with the trunk, buddy.
One would say, though, that we all make mistakes and successes every single day. So who wins? Is it the idea of repeating the same things, the same mistakes every day?
Yeah, he did say practiced. So
yeah,
I would say it's maybe somewhat intentional on either side, be it the mistake or the discipline. But yeah. Well, yeah, we do. We all have tons of mistakes that we probably somewhat intentionally, if not consciously, subconsciously practice every single day. Like there are easily half a dozen things in your day, I would imagine, that shouldn't be there. And they're there anyway because it's easier to do them.
No need to get personal.
Yeah, well, there's 40 in mine, so I just did the math on how much of a better human being than me you are, and I'm like, 6 is probably stretching it, but we'll go with 6. And then there's easily half a dozen or a few dozen things that you should be doing and aren't doing, and those would also be mistakes practiced every day. The mistake of not doing what you should be doing. And big goals feel impossible, like when we're staring at the whole thing instead of, well, what I'll say the next 6 feet, right? And it's probably going to become a new mantra of mine, as we were talking about this in our morning meeting today with my Phoenix team. And it was either that or one bucket at a time. I don't know. Next 6 feet, one bucket at a time. And it came from talking about me and my teen years on the plumbing new construction job site in like Clarkston, Michigan, like Farmington Hills. I lived in Detroit at the time, which sucked because we would drive out to these new construction job sites when I was 16, 17. And they would be in these amazing neighborhoods with these massive sprawling houses. And I would stand, I'm in the foundation, right? So for those who don't know much about the new construction of homes in the Midwest, you're standing on the dirt looking down into a rectangle, right? That has concrete walls poured or cinder block or whatever. And it's just a hole in the earth with walls. Like you're looking at a basement before anything else is up. And that's just the foundation of the home. Now this would be dirt floor, right? Nothing's done with the ground yet. And we would have sticks staked into the ground and yarn pulled from stick to stick, and whatever color was ours, and a blueprint that I don't remember what we used to stick it to the wall, but I don't know, a putty or something. And we could see, like, it would be mapped out when I got there that, like, here's where the sewer line's going. And I would be there with my pickaxe, oftentimes in weather like what you're experiencing today. Nate just came in from sledding to record this Waste No Day episode.
Yeah.
So one more reason for the Minnich family to hate Waste No Day. So I'd be there with the pickaxe. I know what color I'm working with, yarn from stake to stake, and I just have to trench for the sewer line, right? And maybe trench for some branch lines, like to a laundry tub or whatever we might be branching off to. And notoriously, I would swing that pickaxe in the winter as hard as my 5'11", 150, 160 pound little frame could. And it would just clink on the dirt, and like a piece the size of a quarter would fling up in the air, and I would just be utterly defeated. Like, you got to be kidding me with this, right? But I remember looking at all of the, whatever, let's say it was the blue yarn, and all of the trenching I had to do the first couple times that it was just me, or just me and another apprentice or whatever. And I would think to myself, like, this is an impossible task. Like, this is insane. And start digging and just get defeated and feel like I don't want to be here, and, you know, fire up the Newport and take the pain away. And I remember at some point I thought, like, I'm 5'11", plus I'm wearing some pretty thick boots. So if I like laid down flat, it would be about 6 feet. And I just thought to myself, let me just get the trench dug, one of me, right? 1 6-foot trench. Me and my
suicidal thoughts entering your mind.
No, just like, if I can just get that done, maybe by the time I get that done, it'll at least be lunchtime, right? And we can go eat and like warm up. And, you know, before long, you like pound out that 6-foot trench, and it's like, and we start at 7 a.m, and you would pound out that 6-foot trench, and it would be like 7:42 or 9:15 in the beginning, and then all of a sudden you're getting them done. It's like 7:42, and then 7:18, and you're like, oh crap! And you walk to the other side of the 6-foot trench, and you start the next 6-foot trench, and then the next one, and the next one. You start gamifying these things to where I look at the foundation, and I talk about the winter like it was the worst. The worst was when it would pour Michigan rain for 4 weeks straight, you know, and it's still gloomy, and now it's just loaded with water and sludge. That was actually worse, because you jam that shovel in, and you kick it in, and you go to you know, you leverage the handle down and the shovel up, and it's like, and one of those, you know, it weighs 50 pounds, and you're just like, and you go to toss it, and it goes in the trench on your way over to toss it. I hate this. So, but yeah, so you get that 6-foot trench done, and the next one, and you get to the point where it almost becomes routine. And I remember playing these little games with myself where I'm like looking at it before we get started on one and thinking, how many of me do I think there are to get this trench done, right? And let's say I say there's 30 of me total, right? Well, I would count them out in my head while I was going, and then when we would go to lunch, I would just notch in the dirt how many I was at, and just see how many I could get to. I don't remember what the numbers were, but I do remember playing these little stupid games just to have something fun happen in this horrible life that was the new construction plumbing apprentice world in Michigan in the mid 90s. But that was one part of it, and it would just be like, you know, I have to do the whole trench. I only have to do 6 feet. And then you'd get the trench done, and the journeyman usually would come and lay the pipe, and I would hand glue and primer and tape measure, and I'm cutting pieces and handing the fittings over and whatnot. And then the tractor would push the massive pile of pea gravel up on top of the foundation into the foundation, and the plumber would throw 2 empty 5-gallon buckets at me and be like, all right, fill those and then fill the trench. And you learn pretty quickly, probably like the first or second one, that you want to take your pea gravel buckets to the opposite end of the trench and work your way backwards, right? For some reason, it's less agonizing that way. And I would take like, I took 2 or 3 trips the first time, and I'm like 150, 160 pounds, 5'11", 6 feet in my boots. And I remember getting 2, 3, maybe 4 trips the first time. And a 5-gallon bucket of pea gravel has to be, somebody can do the math on this, but it's got to be, we were talking in the plumbing meeting this morning, saying about 50 pounds, but I would think it's probably closer to 60 or 70. But I remember, you know, so I'm farmer carrying 100, 140 pounds, whatever it is, at 150 pounds. Not a fit dude by any stretch of the imagination at that time. Now I would enjoy that. Like, I would be like, I'm getting steps in and I'm getting some traps going, you know, and I'm like working my forearms, like, let's go. I'd be shrugging it the whole way, shoulders up and down. But then I was just in agony, and I felt like at any moment shoulders were going to pop off at the joint like Mr. Potato Head, and I was just going to walk away from my own arms before I realized it. And I don't know how many trips it was with the buckets, but I remember being like, this is wild, right? So what you come to understand is I don't have to do the whole trench. I don't have to do the whole pile of pea gravel. And gravel, you know, that's what you fill the trench in with. You lay some down, you put your pipe on it, and then you fill the trench in with it, because gravel, it gives the pipe a little bit of flex, right? Where the ground can shift a little bit, water can pool up, and all these things can move your piping, particularly at a joint. And the slightest bit of movement in piping that has about 1/8 of an inch of pitch per foot can give that piping a belly. And if you have a belly in that line, now you're going to have things build up right there, and you're going to get clogs. And like here in Arizona, you have a 2-year builder warranty, where if anything goes wrong with that plumbing system, the plumber that installed it for the builder is liable for it for 2 years. So I don't want to have to come back out on a call back and break this person's floor up or saw cut the floor up, you know, and replace some piping. So we have to make sure this is perfect. So this is the reason we use pea gravel, for those who aren't in the plumbing trade. But all I had to get was 1 bucket load right now. That's all I'm responsible for. I need to grab 2 buckets, grab the shovel, fill them with pea gravel, walk them over, pour them, and walk back 1 time, right? If you focus on the pile, you're screwed. If you focus on how much piping has to be covered, you're screwed. But if you can focus on the one task at hand, which is the 1 bucket load, 10 gallons of pea gravel walking over, then you're you're not bad off, right? And then you dump it, and then that walk back to get more, it's a breeze. You feel like you could jump one leap out of the foundation because you feel so light. And then the agonizing pain of the next load, right? But imagine finishing out a subdivision, and now you're into the rough end and into the finish and all that. And then some time goes by, and then you find out we got another subdivision bid and won the bid, and now we're going to go start all over again, man. I loved finish season. Like, you're just going into the home and putting cover plates on and testing the mowing cartridges and like putting toilet seats on and wiping the frickin' electrician's boot print off the toilet lids and sweeping up all their frickin' wire clippings. And then replacing the lines that the HVAC jerk cut out because it was in the way of his return duct or whatever. Like, it's non-important stuff, you know? Yeah, I have some fond memories, but overall, I don't miss new construction plumbing at all.
The real kicker of that story, Brian, is that had they just strung the yarn earlier, they could have had the excavator just trench it for you, and it would have taken him like 15 minutes. So
yeah, I'm sure like now in the 2020s that's the case, but you know, I don't know anything about the crew I was working with compared to today's standards of being efficient and be like, they were good plumbers. I know that, like, all these guys were master plumbers and they were very meticulous with the details on stuff. But this seems like an unnecessary step in the process, doesn't it?
There's a little trial by fire for the apprentice is what it was, and some laughing,
I'm sure,
matter for the master plumbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good place to start, Brian. Yep. Maybe we should hit the review before we get into the content. You're already on a roll, but we always like to take a little bit of time to share somebody who's taking the time to share with us. And we love hearing from you and hearing your reviews and what the podcast, the guests, and the topics have been doing for you. So, Brian, who do we got today?
Forever grateful for this podcast. 5 stars. I've been listening to this show for a few years. It's part of my routine. This show makes Monday the best day of the week. It's helped me a ton. We don't do sales training at my shop, so this is where I get my training and book recommendations. Loved the boot camp, too. This show is not just for sales tips. It's totally great for mindset. I downloaded my favorite episodes and listened to them when I'm feeling down or just feeling lazy. Highly recommended. From Alex and Callie. Like that. You know what would be cool? If from now on, when you post a review, post your favorite episode title.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I'd love to know what Alex's are. That's awesome.
Yeah, Alex from Cali. This was 11 months ago. So you've probably moved on to greener pastures by now. I don't know what he's listening to now, but I'm sure he's found a better podcast by this time. But if not, if you've just been completely deaf to the podcast world and are still listening, what's your favorite episode? Let us know. Figure out how to let us know on social media or something. But that'd be a cool thing to hear on reviews. Like, what are people's favorite episodes?
That would be cool. And great podcast great review on the podcast.
Yeah.
And
appreciate it,
you know, like Alex isn't the only guy out there who doesn't have sales training at his shop. And so we appreciate that from an autonomy and a self-motivation, man. Like, that's kudos to you, Alex, because a lot of guys would just say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to get mine and I'm just going to do whatever they tell me to do and look out for me. But you're leveling up. Like, you're doing the things that a lot of people do not organically do. In fact, a lot of people don't do them, even if it is placed right there in front of them. A lot of guys don't listen. They don't apply, even if they do have sales training. And here you are listening to a podcast on your own and applying it in your own life. So kudos to you, my man. Well done. All right, let's get back to the content here. So Brian set us up for the meat of the show today. And what we're really discussing about is, if you haven't guessed it, the concept of persistency in things that seem really large, and whether it's a mental exercise or some type of, chunk it down type thing. How are you overcoming? Because we all get into this place where something seems too big to achieve. And the natural human reaction to something that's too big to achieve is to just give up, like to just surrender. And what this draws me to is, I should have looked this up before I started. There's multiple examples of this, but cathedrals at large. So cathedrals at large generally took somewhere between 2 and I want to say like 600 years of time to build. In short, nobody was knocking out cathedrals in like 10 to 15 years. Okay. That just wasn't a thing. So
That's how long it
single
took me
time,
to pour pea gravel.
every single time somebody set out to say, I want to build a cathedral, right? And then I want to design a cathedral, and then I want to actually see it through to fruition. Every single time that happened, the people who started the journey never finished it. They were not alive. It wasn't that they retired. It wasn't that they moved on to another job or anything like that. They were dead. Why? Because it took hundreds of years to build these buildings. And the one that I was thinking of is, I believe it's in Spain, Basilica something, the name escapes me. They're still building it. Like they're still going on. And like the dude who designed it is long dead, like generations dead. And like the fortitude that it takes to even set the first stone on that building. Think of yourself in like 1200 AD, right? You had to chisel that stone out of just the quarry with your bare hands and some hand tools. And you're setting that stone, realizing it's the foundation stone of a building that you will never see the completion to. Like you probably won't even see the first story. It took that long. These are insane buildings with details and sculptures and just, unbelievable detail, all by hand. And the fortitude it took for these people to do that, it just amazes me, Brian.
Yeah, it's a good lesson, because it's like you can kind of see where their gratification was to some extent, right? Because I don't know, the Medicis get together with the Pope at the time or whatever, and however this thing came to start, but they hire a contractor and say, your job is to get this stone that's going to be the foundation of a building. That's it, right? Your job is not to build a building. Your job is just to make this stone happen, and that's what we need you for. And that can be the way we look at this thing, right? Because I didn't know it at the time, but that job I was doing taught me something I still use today. And it's that every big goal looks impossible if I let myself zoom out to the entirety of the goal, right? 2026 budgets upon us, a new role, a new season of life, right? Fatherhood. Like, I've got to get this kid that was born this morning or whatever to adulthood as a fully functioning, contributing, tax-paying, voting, family raising, working, caring man, right? Or the alternate version of that as a woman, right? And if you look at it, you're like that. I'm like, I don't have the tools, right? I'm barely that, right? So I'm not equipped to make this little thing into that. Just keeping him or her from dying is going to be enough work for me, but I'm certainly not equipped for all those things. And you stand there staring at the whole thing, and our brains immediately start negotiating with us. This is going to take forever. We don't have what it takes. We're already behind. But none of that totalitarian piece matters, because the only thing that actually moves the needle is the 6 feet in front of us, right? One trench, one shovel, one bucket, one phone call, one rep, one gym doors opening, one uncomfortable conversation with a client or a subordinate or a team member. And that's it. It's just this one bucket that I'm looking at right now. And the gravel part is the one that really sticks, because it's like, I got so far by digging the trench that it felt like my job should be done for a week. But it wasn't even the hardest part of the job that day, or whatever day it finished, right? The trench was already dug. Like this, now it's all downhill skiing. The hard part felt like it should be over, but now comes the part that just hurts. And it's literal just pain, right? I remember I was so soft that like the bones in my hands would hurt. I'd have calluses and stuff. Like I lift weights, bro. Like it's not these days, But then it would beat the crap out of me. Like everything hurt when I got home. And it was just over and over and over and over. And there was no applause. And there was no such thing as a shortcut. And I don't know if there's enough of that today. Right? Like getting kicked out the side of a Econoline 250 van with a little stereo with 4 C batteries in it. An umbrella, which was a joke. And like a little lunch pail and a thermos of decaf coffee, right? Just something hot. So I think that it's a good thing to go through. I think I don't want to go through it again for sure. But I want my son to go through these kinds of things. And I'm certainly glad I did. But I wonder if there's enough of it in the instant gratification generations that have come after me. And it's getting more and more, even to the point where I struggle with instant gratification and with looking at the elephant from 30 yards back saying I'll never be able to eat that whole thing, right? Because I have the experience with it, it makes me be able to say, I don't have to eat a whole elephant. I just have to eat a bite, right? I don't have to dig a whole trench. I have to dig 6 feet. It's 2 buckets, baby. No big deal. So we tend to think progress should feel lighter as we go. And sometimes, or most of the time, it gets heavier as we go, doesn't it? Because the responsibilities load up. And when we get to a place where at one point in our life was the dream, right? The goal was to be this, to get here. Now all of a sudden you have all the work still, and you might have a lot more help with whatever that work was, but you have more work, different work, and heavier and heavier responsibility. And as you get older, less and less natural energy. Right? And that doesn't mean we're doing it wrong. Doesn't mean we're doing anything wrong. It just means we're getting closer. So I couldn't think about 30 or 40 trips left. If I did, I would slow down or stop. All I could do was grab my buckets, start walking, dump them, spread them with the shovel. I would make that part take forever sometimes. And then do it again and again and again. And eventually, with 0 fireworks and 0 people standing up top applauding me, the job was done. And I remember sometimes I'd be like, after the finish, we'd be on one job and the new owners of another job that we had done are like walking the property or whatever. And I would see them over there and I'd be like, I wonder if they know how hard I busted my back for them to have that sewer line there. You see him and you're just like, you don't even know how good you got it while you were at your desk, right? All this got done for you. For me to make, bear with me, $7 an hour. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was making back in my apprenticeship days. But that's how this works. So we don't eat the elephant by stretching our jaw out like a python, right? Or by being tougher than everyone else. We get the elephant down by refusing to quit before the next bite. I just got to get that one more bite. And then that one more bite. Not the whole thing. So thought this would be a good episode to at least record in January. Don't think it's going to quite drop in January, but it's January while we record it. And I know we said recently that the Waste No Day boot camp was going to be the end of February, but Nate lied about that. All right. So I apologize for Nate. He's lying. He doesn't care about you audience members. He just doesn't. It looks like the first 2026 Waste No Day boot camp will be Thursday and Friday, March 19th and 20th in Phoenix. But believe me, when we know 100% for sure, it will be on the website, wastenoday.com. We'll be promoting it all over Blue Collar Closer. If you're not in that group, I ask again, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? You pretend you want to get better. Right now, there's kind of a try before you buy, experience the place, get the community in you, a little bit of the classroom, a little bit of the live calls, $49 a month, right? $49 a month. It's in the notes, the show notes of this episode. Check it out. So we'll post it all over there. We'll post it on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere else. And then we'll also be yammering about it nonstop on here until the tickets are sold. When we release the tickets, they will go into the Blue Collar Closer community first. They will have 48 hours to buy the tickets. And then if there are any left, they go to the general public. Anywho, most overwhelm isn't even real. So it's imagined. It's our brain fast forwarding to the end and convincing us that we're already tired, oftentimes before we've even started. And that's the hard one, right? And I remember building Blue Collar Closer. I feel like it took me a couple months to even actually start. I was in this, air quotes, planning phase for like 2 months. I mean, I've been planning in my head for years, right? But when it came time to actually start building the community, I decided on the school platform, SKOOL, to host it. And it was very difficult to actually get started. And then the work was pretty tremendous, carrying a full-time job, certainly carrying the lion's share of this podcast on my back, and a family and all the other things I partake in, and then adding that to it. It just meant, well, we've talked about it on here. It meant going to bed at about 11 and getting up at about 3 for a long stretch, probably 2, maybe 3 months. And to the point where my daughters, my 11 and 8-year-old, did these projects at school. It was really cool. It was like something like, who are your heroes? And Madeline, my 11-year-old, said, she wrote it. I'm going to obviously frame this thing when I finally get it, when the semester ends. It said, my daddy is my hero because he works so hard to provide everything for us. He barely sleeps, but he still makes time to play with us. And I was like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that last piece right there, baby. Come here. Right in front of everybody. Come here. Give me a hug. Yeah, so yeah, and it was a lot of work like that. But like, it was a lot of work on the one task that I have to do right here, right now, right? Like, what's the one thing I could be doing that's going to have an impact? And you start working on that thing, right? Right now, all we need to do is carve this stone out, as Nate was saying, for the for the foundation. And that's it. I don't have to worry anything about the stained glass windows that are going in 86 years from now. That has nothing to do with me and this current moment. So we just get to work on the foundation. And I was standing in those foundations. Nothing about the work changed from trip to trip. Same bucket, same distance, same pea gravel. The only thing that changed was what I let myself think about. And that's so crucial. The moment I thought about how many trips were left, I slowed down. My shoulders and hands hurt more. My knees got a little buckly. Everything felt heavier. But when I stayed present and kind of quietly celebrating the end of one bucket run and pouring, I was amped every single time. I know it sounds stupid, and it is kind of stupid, but many of us are wired this exact way. I needed the win in every bucket dump, right? And that carries over everywhere. Guys say they're overwhelmed at work, but what they really mean is more likely they're trying to solve an entire year in one afternoon. We're trying to fix our entire financial life that took 20, 30, 40 years to get here in one evening. Our marriage, our kids, our health, our fitness level, our career. And oftentimes, as men, all of those things all at once, right? Just carrying around this basket with all these things we're trying to do all at once. Of course that feels crushing. It would be crushing. That's a lot of weight to try to do all at once. And momentum comes from shrinking that frame to saying, what's the one thing we can do next that actually matters? Not the 10 things, not the perfect plan. The one thing, as Dr. Jordan Peterson wrote about in, what was the name of his book? The 12. The 12. You come up with that. But he would talk about cleaning your room, right? Clean your room. That's a great place to start. And he'd just be like, don't say that in the next hour I'll have my room clean. This is a thing I've done. So I got a 20-year-old, a 17-year-old, an 11-year-old, and an 8-year-old. And all the way down the line. Started with my 20-year-old, and it's worked its way down to my 8-year-old, with whom I still do this to this day. Actually, I think my son was the only one who didn't really ever ask me to help him clean his room. It's a guy thing, I think. The two ladies who listen to this show are like, what? What did you just say? But all three of my girls, their entire lives have asked me to, when it's time to really get busy and clean the room, like, Dad, can you help me? I'm like, no, you got to do it. Please. Probably because I'm like, all right, look, don't tell Mom. Of course I'm going to help you. But here's what my help would look like. So Claire and I just did this last week. We survey the room, right? And I would tell Juliana, who was a little older the last time I did it with her, we survey the room like Terminator, where he looks up and down the biker at the bar. He sees what his boot size and everything is. It's like that red light scanning him. This is how we scan your room. And we're going to count the things that are out of place. All right. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Go ahead. And then the daughter would take over. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we get to 23 things. I'm like, all right, do one. Just pick one and do it. And she picks up a shirt, takes it over and hangs it on the hanger or whatever and puts it away. I'm like, 22. Now pick one. She does another one. 21. 20. And when we get to 19, I'll go, look, now you don't even have 20-something things to do. You only have the teens, right? Now keep doing that till you get to 10 and come and find me so we can celebrate. Come running down, get me. We go back up. We look. I count. It's like 14. I'm like, all right, well, you're not at 10 yet, but that's clever for you, right? And they do that until they get to 0, and you take little breaks to celebrate along the way. And this is the kind of thing that Jordan Peterson talks about, where he's like, well, he knows how he was and how we are. And he's just like, well, you're useless. So stop setting a standard for yourself that you would set for a highly productive genius, because that's not you, right? That's not me. Set the standard for someone as useless as me and be fairly merciful on yourself, or nothing's going to get done. So, right. So just say, I'm going to clean up 3 things in my room today, or one little corner of the room. And you just go to that corner and you start cleaning it up. And you forget that corner done, and you still got a little pep in your step, which you probably will, because that's how momentum works. Then you keep going. So do that, and then earn the right to worry about the next step, not the whole room, but the next corner of what you're going to do, right? And this is why consistency annihilates intensity every time. Because, as we know, you can spend 35 minutes brushing your teeth every Sunday, or 5 minutes brushing your teeth every day. Who's going to have cleaner teeth in a year? It's consistency. No different than the gym, although Mike Mentzer might have something to say about that if he was still around. Right? It's just consistency. It's the person who goes 5 days a week and just does, good reps, good sets, good intensity, is going to destroy the person who goes every other week and gives it 110%, but only goes every 2 weeks, right? It's not even going to be a comparison. So we don't need a breakthrough. We need another bucket. We need another shovelful, another rep, another day showing up when you don't feel like it. That's a dying skill, isn't it? But that's how common people like me build uncommon lives, and common or average people build significantly above average lives and experiences. It's just momentum and consistency, because of the Matthew principle, right? To he who has, more will be given, and he will have in abundance. And then the opposite is also true. From he who has not, even what little he has will be taken away. And if you're curling up in that ball, in whatever it might be, laziness, depression, whatever it is, and you sink in on yourself, things are going to get a lot worse real fast. But if you start making moves, things get a lot better real fast, like lightning fast. Not in that second, but in the following days that turn into weeks, that turn into months, that turn into years. You blink and you realize your life is significantly better, and a year has gone by. Right, buddy?
Yeah, Brian, that Peterson book is 12 Rules for Life, by the way, if anybody's curious about that.
12 years for life. Yeah.
And I like what you're saying, Brian.
Great
Spot
book.
on.
Awesome book. We don't talk about that book enough, but we should.
So I'm reflecting upon what you're saying, and I think there's 2 different types of elephants. There's the ones that you know are an elephant, and then there's the ones that you don't know are an elephant. So like, you mentioned about like kids, right? For me to think through all the things that I'm trying to plan to launch my kids and like all those types of things, it's extremely overwhelming. And yet the action of producing a child is not overwhelming at all. And like, man, if I knew half the things that I knew now as a parent, I don't know if I ever would have started. Well, yeah, fair. I don't know if I ever would have started. And like, it's because you just like immaturity, inexperience, whatever you want to say, you don't really understand the ramifications, the consequences, the difficulty, the challenges, the intensity, the maturity, and all these things that it's going to take to raise this child. And not everybody takes it that way, right? And, that's a commentary on society in some ways, but you should. And yet you don't realize that at the moment. At the moment, you're looking at your baby girl, your baby boy, and you're looking at them in the eyes and you're like, I'm going to do whatever it takes for this kid. And like you commit in that moment and you're like, you're going to do it. And then, 3 months later, you've slept 1.5 hours for the entire week. You're on like your 5th box of diapers that day. And, the bills are racking up and everything's going up. And you're like, this is insane. And to your point, Brian, it doesn't necessarily get any easier. It just changes in what version of difficult you're going to experience. And that, to me, like that's an elephant that I didn't really know was an elephant. And so I'm just like, okay, I mean, we're just going to eat this thing as it comes in because you really don't know what you don't know. And like every single stage brings something new and beautiful and yet also very difficult. And then there's the elephants that you do know. And you're like, dude, this is huge. This is a big thing. Saving for your first house or if you're on some type of team that actually has to hit a budget or something like that, setting that 2026, that 2027 goal or that 10-year picture or whatever it is. Or, maybe you're pursuing something physically and you're like, I'm going to do an ultra marathon. I'm going to do a triathlon, or I'm going to climb a mountain, or I'm going to swim a mile, like whatever it is, from the beginning that is an elephant. And it's going to take a phenomenal amount of discipline and time and orientation and intensity to accomplish that. And I don't know which one is necessarily easier because in the middle of both of them, you find yourself feeling extremely tired and worn out and like doubting whether you can keep going on or not, whether you knew it or not from the beginning. In the middle, you know it, right? And yet this is the whole point. The whole point is that you are committed to the goal, and you're committed to the goal by doing it in chunk size pieces. And this seems like a good way to like segue into a Brian Tracy concept. In fact, it's a concept that he developed into a book. We're talking about eating an elephant. Brian Tracy wrote a book called Eat That Frog, which is all about how you choose the worst part of your goal or your day or whatever your period is. And you do that first. Why? Because if you eat a frog first, the rest of the day can only go up from there. And he's talking about it literally. Like if you eat a frog literally, how could it get any worse? And I have found that task to be beneficial, not only from a clearing out mind space, because how much time and mental energy do we burn in anxiety and just dread of like something that you have to do. And if you just knock it out at the beginning of the day or the beginning of your week or the beginning of your month, like then it's done. And then you have all that free time back and your mind can go explore other places and do better things. So Eat That Frog, I think, is also a very applicable way to understand what it looks like to eat an elephant, because not every bite of the elephant is going to be particularly tasty. Somebody has to eat the tail, and that's probably not going to be the best part of it. And so maybe you want to balance both of those concepts out by eating the frog first. We're getting pretty deep in the analogy here, but there's elements of whatever goal that you're setting are going to be not as shiny as the big things. And sometimes we get pulled towards like, well, let's go do the fun things first. Maybe. But there can be value and discipline in knocking out the things that you're like, boy, I don't really want to do this, even though I know it's a part of the big thing, and getting that out of the way. It's out of the way, and then it's all gravy from there, right? Not necessarily easy, but it's like it's better. And so when it comes to kind of turning this back into your work, listening as a technician or as a manager or somebody in the trades right now, you might be thinking about 2026. Yeah, this episode might be hitting in February, but okay, fine. Like start with something. What's your monthly goal? What's the goal for the next 30 days? Today. You don't even have to wait for the first of the month. Just say for the next 30 days, what is your goal? Okay, your goal is to produce 50,000, 20,000, 100,000, whatever your trade seems reasonable. Okay. All right. What does that mean you have to do on a week? Okay. Take that number, divide by 7 or divide by 4, if you will. All right. What about on a day? Take that number, divide it down. Okay. Do you run multiple calls in a day or is it a single call? Okay, multiple calls. Okay, divide by that number, right? You just keep going down, keep going down, keep going down until you get it to a chunk size, digestible piece where you can say, I can do that. And you might start off by saying $100,000 a month. That's insane. I could never do that. until you figure that out and you back it all the way back and you say, well, wait a minute, it's only such and such per call. That's only such and such per day. I can do that, right? That's how it works. And then, here's where the contrarian in me wants to say, well, yeah, but I could never run at that pace for that period of time. That's an unsustainable pace, Brian. Like, that's crazy. I would have to do this much every single call. I can't do that much every single call. I mean, yeah, sometimes I do it. It's great. But every single call, that's crazy, Brian. What do you say to that guy?
Well, you're right. Like, if you're running, like, if it takes everything in you to be able to run your calls that effectively and get what you need out of your call, you won't be able to run every call that way, right? And I know it probably sounds counterintuitive, but we just got done with this exercise. We have them up on the boards in the training room. We absolutely break it down from the year to the month to the week to the day, but we don't break it down to the by call level. And while we focus heavily on opportunity averages and conversion rates, for the team, every Monday morning, we will cover what they set their monthly target at, what their daily is, and where they're at for the month and where they're supposed to be based on what their goal is and whether they're red or green. The number is written in red or green. We don't break it down to a per call because it's like, if you have 3 calls today, you don't need to divide your goal by 3 and do that number 3 times. You probably just need to do really well on 1 call, right? Probably. That's the idea. Because, I mean, you're absolute elite if you're running a combination of service calls, free estimates, and maintenance calls, and you're converting at 90% on all. You're elite, right? You're in the top of the top. But even if you are, that still means every 3 days you're going to get a 0, right? So you can't say divide it by the 3 calls I'm going to run, but you have your daily number. But you do need to be able to hit your calls with the intensity that they require. And oftentimes I'd say if you have to run at full out energy expenditure the entire day to do that, you probably lack a process. And I got a process, the GoPro system that I designed for myself in a truck and has now seen 6,000 evolutions since then. But I was running as hard as I could on every call and burning myself out before that. And then I could run at like 60% energy once I had a system in place and convert at much higher rate at a much higher sale average. So I would say if it requires that, you don't have a system. And if your system requires you to run that hard, it's probably not a great system. But there's something interesting about why focusing on the next small step works. Because it's not just productivity, it's psychological. We as human beings don't actually function well when the future becomes too abstract, I guess is the word I'm looking for. You can check that. When the goal gets too big, it stops being a guide and actually starts feeling like a threat to us. And my favorite philosopher or psychoanalyst or whatever he was, Carl Jung, a lot of inspiration for a lot of Tool songs and Jordan Peterson. Jung talked about order and chaos often. Too much chaos and we freeze, right? It's just, we go into fight or flight. Too much order and people stagnate. The 6 feet in front of us sits right in that balance for me, right? The two buckets, and where I have to go with them is just right in between the order and the chaos. It's structured enough to act on, but small enough not to make us feel overwhelmed. It keeps us grounded in reality instead of either fantasy or full-on fear, which either one is going to be nearly impossible to get something actually done. And C.S. Lewis, it's probably one of my favorite authors, wrote about faithfulness in small things. Not because the small things are impressive, but because they're formative. They shape who we become while we're doing them. They're shaping our personality. Carrying the bucket doesn't just move gravel from one place to the next. Alex Hormozy talks about this a lot, just kind of extracted from Proverbs, but the work works on you more than you work on the work, right? So the act of doing is turning you into something more than it's actually affecting whatever it is that you're working on. It builds a kind of person who can be trusted with more responsibility later, right? Among many other things. And Peterson often points out in the book that meaning is found in voluntarily taking on responsibility that's appropriately sized. Not heroic responsibility, not crushing responsibility, but just enough to stretch us a little bit further than yesterday without breaking us. One honest day of hard work, one difficult but necessary decision, a small task but done really, really well, even though nobody else is ever going to see this, right? Or as far as you're concerned, this pipe's going to get sealed into the drywall and nobody's going to know it was done, but you solder the perfect joint. You make things perfectly level. And that all is how lives are built, right? Not in moments of intensity, but that quiet consistency we talked about earlier. We don't become someone capable of big things necessarily by aiming at only big things. We become that person by repeatedly doing small things we know we should do, whether we feel like it or not. And I know that's the part that sucks. The elephant doesn't disappear because we take a bite. It's I don't know, how many bites would it take to eat an elephant? Thousands? Tens of thousands?
That's how hungry you are.
We gotta do. I don't know how we find this out. Do we just ask Grok or whatever the X thing, Chat GPT? But it starts the moment we start engaging and stop imagining. So yeah, get to. I don't know why you start with the trunk and not the tail. I feel like if we're operating on the eat that frog mindset, we should probably start from the back and pray it's a female elephant.
All right. So an average African elephant weighs 6,000 kilograms or 13,227 pounds. A typical bite of food might weigh 15 grams, roughly the size of a small piece of steak. So we're talking about 400,000 bites to eat an entire elephant. There you go.
400,000. Roughly about the size of a small piece of steak.
That's what
I'm eating an 8-ounce filet in one bite. You know what I mean? How much do you hate it when you go to a really nice restaurant with like people that are a little bit higher society? Like I go to a restaurant with like Tommy and the crew, and I'm like, and we get this like, I'm like, yeah, give me the filet, and it's like 6 or 8 ounces, you know, and I'm just like, I got to sit here and like carve this thing. That's a bite. If Amelia served that to me on a plate, I would just pick it up with 2 fingers and put it in my mouth. Yeah. But now I got to sit here and carve it up all proper, like with the napkin over my lap, pretend to be high society. It's fine. Nobody cares less about that stuff than Tommy, though. I could just toss it in my mouth and be like, yeah, good on you.
Well, this has been a good episode, Brian, and I think a lot of things to think about in terms of what to focus on if you're staring down a big goal, or perhaps you've been hesitant to set a big goal because you've been thinking it's too big all along. And so what a great opportunity to kind of reframe the perspective of what it means to accomplish big things, big goals, big ideas. And we encourage you to take this principle and throw it into your family, into your career, into your fitness, into your faith journey, whatever that you're looking to improve in. And go do big things. Go do hard things. Go do the things that take more than a day or whatever. There's one thing, Brian, that I think ChatGPT and all the other AI programs are stealing from this, and that is creativity and discipline to go do things, because it just becomes so easy. And like, I'm as guilty as the next person.
You mean like Googling how much does an elephant weigh, and then Googling how much does a typical bite of food weigh, and then doing that math with your calculator, bro? I agree.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's some things that I think, I'm not really going to be able to find out myself, but okay, fine. Point made. Anyways, what I'm saying is that, like, that stuff has made something so much easier for us, which is good, and I love it too, but it also does steal away our desire to actually like progress through hard things, because everything has just become easy and at the tap of a button. But there's some things in life that are just not like that. Raising your kids, it's not like that. Buying a house and saving money, it's not like that. Rising up in your career and getting better, it's not like that. These things take time and intentionality. These are elephants. These are big things, and they take chunk-sized perspective to be able to win. So we hope that we have encouraged you to take that perspective and to run with it, to find an elephant, chunk it down, and start biting. Make that your goal for today to begin that process.
Yeah.
Great episode. We hope that you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think and what your elephant is. We'd sure love to hear about it. No, I didn't know if you were going to say something there, Brian, but we'll just keep on going. That's fine. We'd love to know what
you froze on my screen. So I do want to say something. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say we got our new logo and color scheme out for Blue Collar Closer, our sales training community, from the man, the myth, the legend, Dan Antonelli and his amazing team at Kick Charge Creative. So yeah, check it out. BlueCollarCloser.com. I think you need to go into go down to sign up now. You don't have to sign up, but if you click the button, it'll open the homepage of the group for you, and you can see it's like a mechanical B with a wrench. That's the line in the center. And then the two circles on the B are open in the front. So it says BCC, which is just ridiculous. Yeah. Let us know. Check it out. Let us know what you think of the colors and the logo, but it's pretty sick. I'm pumped. I can't wait. Very soon on an episode
Me too.
that you'll watch on YouTube, we will be rocking the crap out of BCC logos on our person.
There you go. All right. Well, we're going to leave you now with our weekly challenge, and this one seems even more pertinent because of the subject matter on this episode. But we challenge you to choose to wake up each and every morning and waste no day.